Hey everyone, welcome back to GameSpot of Thrones. I'm Lucy, joined by
Tamoor
and Dave.
And we're here to break down Season 7, Episode 3, The Queen's Justice, or as we like to call it, the episode where Game of Thrones went full Battlestar Galactica. And we are totally okay with that.
Thumbs up if you get that connection.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to really
points.
spell it out for you later on. But as always, there are going to be major spoilers. So if you haven't seen the episode, turn away now, come back later. If you have seen the episode, then let's get cracking.
Like Jorah's skin.
Or like the Kraken on the Ironborn.
Hey.
So the episode begins in Dragonstone, and as promised, Jon and Davos make the trip over to Dragonstone, meet Dany and the gang, and they're met on the shores by Tyrion and the Dothraki, who is wearing a Jared Leto level of eyeliner. I looked at him and I was like, my guy.
Season of eyeliner.
Hey, I mean, get that volcanic rock, like a little pumice stone. Like.
Maybe it's Dothraki, maybe it's Maybelline.
So this is the first time Jon's actually witnessing that the Dothraki are across the sea, which is a small thing. Witness long hair and bare chests. And then Tyrion and Jon briefly talk about Sansa, which is a awkward but not awkward kind of conversation.
I did not bone your sister.
Yeah,
I did not.
It was a sham marriage and it was not consummated. I did not put
Just
my
want to
little
get that out of the way.
Yeah, so that's the elephant in the room, which is quickly taken care of. But they also have a chat about Sansa as a character and how she's progressed. So we get to see, like in the two quick lines, we get to see what Sansa used to be and what she is now. So Tyrion's like, oh yeah, she was much sharper than she let on back then. And then Jon's like, she's starting to let on now. So
it's been a bit mouthy now.
Yeah, so it's kind of like the purpose of that, I think, was really to show that Sansa's now a player, not a pawn, which is an important and appreciated part of the kind of writing there.
Well, the transition was so slow. It was nice to have that anchor back in the past to be like, she wasn't always like this.
Yeah. And then we get a quick shot of the dragons swooping in and scaring the shit out of Davos and Jon while everyone else is like, yeah. Another instance of Jon witnessing the forces that Daenerys has. Elsewhere, Melisandre, the Red Priestess, is chilling out with Varys. She's keeping a distance, rightly so, because as we know, Jon said, I will 100% stab your ass if I see you again. And she's smart in staying away. But like, she's just, her role is that she's like, I'm done now. I've united ice and fire and I'm a bounce. But
Ice and fire, though, funnily enough, like that's how obsidian is formed in real life. So
exactly.
when volcanic lava gets cooled very, very quickly. And that's like how dragon glass is formed. Hey, that's a very nice little thing that I only realized when we were writing this.
Yeah, so the Varys is kind of like, he says an interesting line, which I really like. Give us common folk power and we're like lions that tasted the blood of man, nothing so sweet. So he's kind of like, could be foreshadowing something that could happen later on. You know, there's the idea in last episode where, Varys was being told, don't try and stab me in the back by Daenerys.
Wait, hang on. He says we're like lions. As in like Lannister lions. Is that how maybe Cersei knows everything that's happening with Daenerys' army?
SpaghettiOs.
Imagine that though, because
That would be
she's
quite
being
interesting.
foiled at every turn.
That's true.
As we saw in this episode.
And I had such big respect for Varys after the last episode, but if that's true...
I like the shot of him later
Slap
in the
his
episode
bald
where
head.
he's just got his hands in his pocket. And he's just like, I'm a fashion model
What's he
now.
hiding in those pockets?
So Melisandre says she's going to Volantis, where, as we know, there are a lot of red priestesses hollering and hooting in public there.
The religion of the Lord of Light
Yep.
sort of comes from.
Yeah, so Varys says you should not come back to Westeros because it is bad news here for you. But she says she will have to return because, like him, they're fated almost to live out their final moments in Westeros.
In this weird country.
Yeah, and also like we know she is going to come back because she spoke to Arya. Arya has Melisandre on her list and she said they will meet again. And also there's some question as to what kind of, how does that line relate to Varys? He's obviously in there, but like a few seasons ago he talked about his the process of castration and that kind of stuff, and he mentioned hearing something in the fire, which there's a connection there. We're not sure how it's going to bear out yet, but it's an interesting kind of like a connection between Melisandre and Varys, which I feel like they could explore further on. After that, we go down to the throne room, and it's getting down to business in there.
World's most uncomfortable throne.
Yeah, exactly.
They're
That
all
throne
uncomfortable.
looks so bad. I would hate to sit on that. I mean,
I'd rather that one than one made of swords.
these chairs
Yeah.
are uncomfortable, but I'd rather be sitting on these than that damn throne. So in the throne room, they kind of have this clash of ideologies and power and history and beliefs, and ice and fire meeting. It's
Gonna make
rough. It's gonna make steam. Yeah, buy your games here for cheap. So like they talk about, it's like a symbolism there between their relationship, the ice and fire thing. But so they talk about Missandei is there, and she's reciting all of Daenerys's many achievements.
World's
It's
longest business
LinkedIn all
card.
over
Yeah,
again,
it
isn't
is full LinkedIn. Please add me to your network. And then
Before I take over your network.
And then Davos rolls up and he's like, "This is Jon Snow. He's king in the
Yeah.
north." It's nice and concise, but it was a nice bit of like comedy there, which was like, yeah, he's just an ordinary
Just a
guy.
dude. Also,
just-
can I just say, Davos Seaworth has a Geordie accent.
And they
Um,
say,
Call it the right thing.
They call it a flea bottom accent.
That is
Now,
where Lucy is from.
I am a Geordie. You can't really tell with my accent a lot of the times because I have a fake presenting voice.
yeah.
But man, I'm from Flea Bottom.
Yes, you are. Don't forget.
So Davos is, in the words of Kendrick Lamar, keeping it humble. Sit down, be humble. That's my one hip hop reference of the week.
Right, you nailed it. You get
Yeah.
one a week. That's it. No more.
So like there's a lot of family history covered here between them, and like they're trying to figure
Yeah.
out whether they or who owes what allegiance, and they're kind of like untangling the history of him. And Daenerys reminds Jon that Torrhen Stark, known as the king who bent the knee,
Catchy.
yep, he bent the knee
Yeah.
and was pledged the Starks to the Targaryens, and she's like, you did that. He did that in perpetuity. So you need to kneel before Zod, like your
Snoochie
your
boochies.
daddy and your granddaddy did, and get with the program. And he's like, you guys kind of burnt them. And
Literally
like,
burnt those bridges.
Yeah, you burned those bridges and the people. So like, I'm not sure if I want to do that. And then Daenerys is, again, another important line. Don't judge a daughter by the sins of her father.
That's a nice symmetry to episode 1, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it is.
Yeah.
So like there's like a back and forth between them where they're kind of, like I said, untangling this and realizing that they're in quite similar positions. They have family that kind of could reflect poorly on them, and they're trying to work through that. Then there's this misalignment of purposes. So Daenerys is entirely focused on reclaiming the kingdom, and Jon's like, don't worry about the kingdom. There's these zombies coming. These undead zombies are ready to roll up on your entire kingdom and take it all over. And he points out that she could have stormed King's Landing by now, but she chose not to. He's kind of pleading and kind of playing to her good heart almost, and being like, look, everyone's going to die. Do you want everyone to die?
Or
Maybe
just
you
some
shouldn't.
people to die.
Yeah.
Just the baddies to die.
Yeah. And she's like, I got through all the shit that I got through, being sold, raped, and, treated poorly by believing in myself. And he's like, believing in the idea that I will rule the kingdom. And he's like, you're going to be ruling over a graveyard if you're not careful, girl. From there, they're kind of feeling each other out. And then Davos lets something slip. Almost. So he mentions that, Jon has no birthright. He's a bastard. Like you, he's basically saying, like, you got to treat this guy with respect because you've done a lot. He's done a lot based on no birthright. He's taken a sword or knife to the heart and almost and then got cut off when Jon gave him like a dirty look. That was like, which is interesting because she doesn't believe in, the White Walkers and the Whites and that kind of stuff right now. Imagine if she learned that he died and then brought back to life.
Yeah.
That would be interesting. It could
So, hang on.
drive...
So the army of the dead. You mean you?
yeah, exactly. It could drive a wedge between them in so many different ways. But it could also be a thing that they bond over. Like if he's like, hey, go, proof, I'm here. This magic stuff
Check out
is real
these
deal.
scars.
Yeah, so that's them kind of feeling each other out and fighting for their causes. She kind of points out it ends in a bad way for Jon because she's like, you're the king of the north, and by not kneeling, you're basically an open rebellion. And before that can resolve itself, your boy Varys comes running in like, hey, girl.
First time I've seen him move at anything but a shuffle.
Hey, baby girl, let me whisper in your ear.
That's how he's
got a
getting everywhere
massive
so
problem.
fast. He's actually a marathon runner.
Yeah, so he brings news that the Ironborn fleet that they had, the small fleet that they had, is gone. Illyria is
It's even
gone.
smaller now.
Yeah, the Sneck is gone.
And snakes are gone.
And the Dornish are gone as well. So your war is not going well. So overall, it was kind of like ice and fire meet, sparks fly. They're trying to figure out who's doing what, but we'll return to Dragonstone later on to have more and maybe some more resolution on this dynamic.
So briefly, on the sea, we know that Theon isn't drowned. He's been snatched up like a fish out of water, literally. And the few ships that survived the battle, Yara's loyal men, fished him out. Not exactly got a warm reception.
No.
It's quite similar to the reception he got from the Ironborn at Moat Caitlin. They view him as like with like pity and like disgust. It's to live through this is not the Ironborn way. And he barefaced lies and says, "Oh, I tried to help Yara." They're like, "Bullshit."
Yeah, if you really tried.
If you were a true Ironborn, you wouldn't be here. If you tried to help, you'd be dead or you'd be victorious. That's the Ironborn way, and Theon really hasn't.
The interesting part of that is like with Yara gone, you'd expect he would be now leading the fleet, right? And they're not looking like they're.
Well, Ironborn leadership has always been born out of respect and like.
Yeah, exactly.
They don't
who's
even
the
have
best
like
warrior.
a line of.
They're like whoever
succession.
earns the title gets the title.
Which means whatever remaining fleet they has no leader right now,
Yeah.
so they'll have to assume appoint one.
That's it. Like,
ain't gonna be Theon.
But there hasn't really been another Ironborn character in the show, at least, that's had enough screen time, enough investment that you would understand that they would be the next in line, unless they'll defect.
Well, that's
go
the thing.
to Euron, right?
Theon, if they're going to follow Theon now, who is probably the only
Weak.
really one like
Reek, more like weak.
I said weak.
weak Greek.
Mediocre.
What's Theon going to have to do to kind of earn respect? Like, what's next for him? He's alive, but again, he's back to that shell-shocked state. What's he going to have to do?
That reek life.
Yeah, he's gonna. He's in for a bad time, that boy.
I reckon, if to redeem him, I would have so much respect for him again if he just rocked up Euron and was like 1v1 we scrub.
He goes and rescues this Illyria and the Sand Snake and brings them back. That would be incredible if he pulled out. That would be like.
He's going to have to do, all we know is Theon's going to have to do something big, otherwise it's just going to get worse and worse for him.
Speaking of Ironborn, Euron is in King's Landing getting a hero's welcome, which is, I mean, my boy, he's the best. I love Euron.
This really was the Black Parade this time.
Yeah, it really was. But what's interesting is that, like, he even says it himself, like a Greyjoy getting a hero's welcome. Well, it's because the Greyjoys have been in, like, open rebellion and raping and pillaging for years.
And they are gross people with bad teeth.
We do not so. And so, like, him getting this hero's welcome and the really awkward, I'm getting hard.
Oh, imagine he's sitting on a horse that time. Imagine how much that has got to hurt.
That poor horse.
That poor horse is like, what is this
At least
rubbing
he's not riding-
sensation?
At least he's not riding bareback.
Oh,
The
God.
horse. It's a saddle on it.
But yeah, so it's interesting. So when he brings the Sand Snakes and Yara to Cersei, he's like, here's your gifts. You're going to have to marry me. And I think Cersei knows deep down that she's
going to have to
yeah,
marry
she's
him.
going to have to marry him.
I
But
mean, when has
I
she
think-
ever kept a promise, though?
Yeah, I think she's going to take him out of the equation long before it gets to that. But she needs him right now. He is the commander of her navy. And despite him being...
Gross.
An
you
actual
said it.
sex pest.
He's a bit of a sex pest. But despite him being such a loose cannon, she does need him. She needs his ships and she needs his... I was going to say seaman's acumen, but that's real bad.
Naval prowess is what Lucy
Naval
meant.
Prowess. We also get this incredible scene with her and with him and Jaime, where he's asking
scene.
Jaime how Cersei likes it.
How do I please your sister?
How do I please your sister? But also, I think, shout out to Awkward Family Chat of the Week, which is...
The finger in the bum.
But yeah, so I think Cersei's going to have to off him maybe at some point. But for now, she's too busy getting revenge on Illyria.
Oh.
Man, so when this scene
That
came
was
up,
rough.
we were like, wow, she's overdone the chapstick a bit. As
Any
someone,
lipstick in there?
someone in
Lips
the
are
makeup
real
department, let the intern in or something. So this bit, I love that it showed how Cersei was compared to how she is now.
Yeah.
So, like Tyrion said, the only redeeming feature is your love for your children and your cheekbones. And she goes from being like, oh my God, I love my daughter so much. I wouldn't even give her to the wet nurse. She was the light of my life kind of thing, to you killed her. And now I've been lying awake fantasizing of all the ways I'm going to hurt and kill you. So we get to see the nice poetic ending with the lipstick poison thing
Give me
again.
a kiss.
And I really hope she was good with that makeup wipe.
Yeah.
Because of what Cersei did next.
Get that mouthwash on, like.
I
you
mean,
really
because
gotta swirl that
the
around.
first thing she did, making out a bit, going downtown, it's not going to be good if it's still
No.
got poison on there, girl.
Poison
No.
wiener.
Also,
Tingle.
I also loved in this scene where Jaime's like, no one can see us like this. Door. Someone sees us like this. Immediately. It was so good.
I wonder if he's thinking about maybe going for a finger in the bum.
Oh.
He's got to figure it out. The question
The
must
golden
be
one.
there now.
Think of the attachments and the accessories you could have.
That's how it's going to end. Like, the entire series is going to end with Cersei dead and just an entire gold hand up her bum.
Oh, disgusting.
This is upsetting. But let's say a big shout out to the Iron Bank who are back. So as people in the comments rightly said, obviously Casterly Rock, there is no gold in them that hills. The majority of the Lannisters' wealth now is from the Iron Bank of Braavos. And turns out banks, once they've lent you some money, they want it back.
Wait, what?
What?
I know, right?
I need to go deal with something.
You know how the Lannisters always pay their debts. The Iron Bank will have its due. So we actually found out a couple seasons ago when Mace Tyrell was Master of Coin that the bank at that point, I think this was like season 5, asked for 10% of their loan back. And Mace Tyrell was like, we don't even have half of that, which is obviously like 20th. That's a lot of money that they don't have. And so the Iron Bank is like,
It's time to pay.
time.
And yeah, there's a war coming.
Yeah, but the bank is also kind of saying things to Cersei like, well, you know, you've got Euron, he's a bit of a loose cannon. Daenerys has dragons and Dothraki and Unsullied, and she doesn't actually let on straight away, but we know that she does have a plan. But what's interesting is the Iron Bank always invests in like the major power struggles in Westeros. So obviously they've given money to the Lannisters before. They also gave money to Stannis Baratheon like back in season 4, 5. So they were secretly playing both sides. Well,
Classic bank behavior.
2 sides of 5 basically, because they were hedging their bets, right? That one didn't pay off for them. And as Cersei says, paying off the slavers didn't pan out for them because of Daenerys. But I think also what we saw in the next time in Game of Thrones, the Iron Bank ain't messing around.
Yeah. Right, back to Dragonstone we go. We've got some business to clear up. Tyrion and Jon, 2 friends finally having a
Brooding
heart-to-heart moment. Like, they're leveling with each other. And Tyrion's like, I believe you. There's a mutual respect between them. And then Jon also realizes the struggle he faces now. He has to convince people who have never seen the White Walkers or the threat coming that they exist. And how do you convince common folk about that threat when there's a very real threat in Cersei there? So, like, you can't, and they can believe in that. They see that threat. So, like, Tyrion, they have a little discussion back and forth, and Tyrion's like, you know, he wants to present Daenerys as a trustworthy person. And he's like, oh, you know, children are not their fathers. She kind of, like, invites him to speak to the other people that are on the island, the people that she's rescued, namely the Dothraki and the Unsullied and that
Not that
kind
they're
of stuff.
biased or anything.
So it also speaks to the differences between their fathers and themselves. So you have, like, him and Tywin, Tyrion and Tywin. You also have the setup for the eventual revelation that Rhaegar and Jon, father and son. And there's this callback there, which I never noticed, but Lucy, being the encyclopedia of Game of Thrones knowledge, remembered that back in a few seasons ago, Barristan the Bold,
R.I.P.
R.I.P. mate, he was speaking about Rhaegar to Daenerys, and she was like, yeah, I remember him. He used to really like killing and all that business. And he was like, actually, he hated killing. He really liked karaoke. I mean, singing. And like, so it's showing that like there was a softer side to Rhaegar, who's always been presented as this kind of like power hungry, almost warrior that just like bathed in blood of other people. And obviously he's not. He's the father of Jon, and you can see some of that reflected in Jon's softness. Basically, Tyrion says, is there anything reasonable I can do to help you? And Jon's like, yeah. And he's like, seriously, is there anything you need that's reasonable that I can give you? Eventually, he figures out he's talking about the dragon glass. So he takes this knowledge about the dragon glass to Daenerys and is like, hey, you've just lost a bunch of allies, which is really smart on Tyrion's part, really earning his keep as, you know, hand and advisor to Daenerys, and says,
This is why he gets top billing.
yeah, this is why he was number 1 in billing. I was like, this is why. So he's like, you've just lost a bunch of allies. You need to make an ally, and Jon Snow is an ally you can make effectively by giving him something that's nothing to you.
He's taking out your trash, basically.
Yeah, he's
you
like,
don't even need this stuff.
You didn't know this stuff even existed, and he needs it real bad. Easy win. Give it to him. There's also a really cool line that he says, which is, never believe a thing just because you want to believe it. And she's like, who said that? What wise man said that? And he's like, yum, yum, yum. And she's like, you innit, you little shit. He's like, oh man, I've been rumbled. So that was fun. Then Daenerys and Jon have a quick chat, And they kind of like, again, a clashing of ideologies, but they also establish there's some common ground between them. There's like the spark of familial relationship is there. Like she's like, oh, I named those dragons after my dead brothers. You've got some dead brothers, right? And he's like,
A thing to bond over.
Yeah.
So like they're kind of endearing themselves to each other. Eventually she's like, you can have the dragon glass. I will give you people to help you mine that dragon glass. And then Jon's like, so does this mean you believe me? And she's like, oh, can't talk about that right now. So
The old Theon
so
move.
she dodges the question, which shows that her perspective is still quite narrow. She's still entirely focused on Cersei and ruling over the kingdom. But that kind of like that moment of realization when Jon when shows her like, you know, hey, these are zombies. That's going to be the real kind of like interesting thing to watch out for, and the build up towards that is what I'm excited to see.
Just keeping them cards close to the chest.
Yeah.
What I don't understand though is in a world where she survived fire, has dragons, why is zombies such a stretch of the
Yeah,
imagination?
Yeah.
She's like playing it off that her children are dragons as if it's nothing. She's like, what are you talking about?
Prepare yourselves to lean, because it's leaning Littlefinger time. Sansa is getting shit done in Winterfell. She's prepping the place for the long night. She's like, no, we're going to need more grain than that. Those armor bits should have leather on. Get to it.
Armor bits, you mean breastplates?
Yes.
That's the word.
Thank you, Dave.
Boob covers, you mean?
Boob covers, chest plates. So she's getting stuff done, right? And then
Yeah.
there's Littlefinger there buzzing around in her ear, and he says something like, that's kind of weird, but also very foreshadowy. It's like, you should be playing out every scenario with every friend and every enemy, all happening at once, all the time. This war is going on. It's basically the whole Battlestar Galactica. This has all happened before. This is all going to happen again.
She's like, become Batman.
Pretty
Prepare
much.
for every
Become
foreseeable
super
scenario.
paranoid.
Yeah, basically. Everyone's your friend and everyone is your enemy. So while she's sort of dissecting his little weird words, she gets a visitor. Someone at the door. We all thought it'd be Arya. And it's not. It's Bran. And Bran is weird now.
Weird.
So, I mean, Bran is the three-eyed raven. Got my little prop here. And Bran is sort of, I think it's because now he's the three-eyed raven, he can't automatically just be like, oh yes, I can tell you exactly what happened on this date at this time. I think his thoughts mustn't be in any kind of coherent order.
Yeah.
And he's basically just sort of like jumped headfirst into a deep ocean of time and memories, and he can't really.
There's a lot of brain fog by the looks of it.
Little Bran fog.
Yeah. Also, he's seen some stuff in his time. Like, he's been through a hell of a lot, that guy.
So basically, Sansa's like, you're the Lord of Winterfell now? And he's like, nah, I'm good. You know, I'm the three-eyed raven. And she says, well, what does that mean? And he basically like tries to explain it in like the most terrible way ever. It's basically like, you know, that bit in Destiny where they go, I don't have time to explain why I don't have time to explain. So Bran gives her like the worst answer. He's like, oh, hey, you looked really pretty that night you were raped. It's like, oh,
Bran, please.
Oh, that's
Maybe choose a different date to talk
choose
about.
any day, any different date. So basically, she leaves very upset, obviously, because of what she's been reminded of. But so Bran might be a bit weird in this episode. Next episode, he is going to start dropping some truth bombs.
Yep.
Because you think about the stuff that Bran knows. So he knows that Littlefinger betrayed Ned.
Yep.
So obviously that's going to put, you know, Littlefinger probably didn't count on that.
You mean the guy who said imagine all things all the time didn't count on something?
Yeah, I know. Oh God, I really don't want him to die, but he probably will. And the other thing is he knows who Jon's real parents are, so that puts Jon's claim on the North further in jeopardy.
It also kind of crystallizes that Sansa is the key power within the Stark family now. Now that Bran, although Bran is technically, you know, Lord of Winterfell just because of his lineage and being the last remaining son, he's not got much to do. He's, you know, he can't walk. He's not getting up to much around.
I felt like also when Sansa just sort of straight up left him in the Godswood, I was
Yeah.
like, do people know that he's out
There's
there?
got to be a guy just like off shot to be like, do I get
It's
it?
just going to be the tree. Hello? Hello?
I really want that tree to open its eyes.
Yeah, but so now you know that she is kind of like, she knows that it's all up to her. If anything's going to get done, it's her. And she can't rely on her brother. Well, she can rely maybe on the other brother who's off doing weird shit in Dragonstone, but...
Lo and behold, Sam's magic kebab peeling healing skills seems to have done the trick.
Yeah.
But they had that nice warm moment. Sam kind of feels like his debt to his dad is repaid, but Jorah now has a debt to him because he saved his life. And they do say, oh, I hope we'll meet again. And I really hope they do, because...
Season 8.
Season 8, perhaps. there was a really nice dynamic between them. The way I imagine them getting back together is maybe with Jorah at Daenerys' side, assuming someone tells him that, oh, don't get on a boat, she's a Dragonstone now. But I imagine they'll meet with Sam at Jon's side and Jorah at Daenerys' side. Nice little reunion. But typical Game of Thrones fashion, no good deed goes unpunished. Sam is he's got a bit of a slap on the wrist for disobeying Maester Marwyn. And while there is a punishment, it does seem like Marwyn has gained some newfound respect for Sam, because as he says, there's maesters whose chains are heavy with healing links, which I thought was a very cool line, because it's a nod to how maester links work. They've not managed this, and how'd you do it? He's like, I just follow the instructions. But his reward is to not get kicked out, which is probably best for him because he's got a lot to do. But his punishment is to transcribe all these old rotten books. Now, I'm feeling that maybe there's something in those rotten books. The fact that they're rotten probably means they're super old. The fact that they're super old probably means there's some lost knowledge in there. So,
I mean, yeah, he's got to read it to copy it. So, like, that's basically red battle mage training. Like, get on it. Learn all this stuff. So he's going to roll up later like, I've got all the spells, guys.
Well,
watch this.
I'd be okay with that, but still. Either he'll get access to the Forbidden Library, which will be good for him, or he'll find something in those books. But
I think he'll find something.
Yeah, he's
what
great
do we
at
think he's
honing
going
in
to
on
find, though?
knowledge.
Azor Ahai? I don't know. There was already like a small reference to Azor Ahai, and they obviously name dropped him him or her last episode.
I think it's going to be like a general boost in knowledge for him. Like he's going to have a lot of information and become, he needs to train up.
Maybe
knowledge stat plus
it'd be
one.
really good to see him like maybe read more about the White Walkers and maybe give some truth to all the tales that Jon's telling, and maybe he'll find proof in there, or he'll find like a recipe for Valyrian steel.
Maybe he'll find where Gilly and Sam are in there, because what the hell happened to them? Just like off somewhere
in some house. Apparently, working for the Citadel also comes with a nice employee benefit of housing. So while we start at Dragonstone, Daenerys is obviously a bit miffed that her navy has been sunk. She kind of wants fiery vengeance.
You sunk my battleship.
Literally. And she literally wants fiery vengeance. Those wooden boats wouldn't stand up to Dragonfire, but as they say, it would only take one arrow to knock her down. Tyrion's like, hey, I've got some good news. Castle Rock, there's some stuff going down there. We see the siege going down, and the ladders going up walls, Unsullied dying, Lannister's dying, and he says that we're outnumbered. They're behind walls. We're at a disadvantage. But while Tywin was building up the rock from ruins, he was the architect of the sewers. And lo and behold, he's the architect of the fall of Castle Rock, because he actually put in tunnel systems. They were made for nefarious
Ladies.
Sneaking some ladies in.
Sneaking some ladies in, which was not looked kindly upon. I really like the touch that there was actually a dusty bedroom as they were going through. It was like that was his old bachelor pad.
But this isn't the first time we've seen these strats either.
No, we saw it in Marine, where Grey Worm did the same thing. So
Grey Worm.
He's like guerrilla warfare #1 at this point.
Full Shawshank Redemption, going through these pipes full of poop.
I was actually going to make a Sean Connery The Rock reference as well.
Better.
So, if they wanted someone to take The Rock, get Sean Connery in.
Welcome to The Rock.
While the Unsullied obviously fighting for Daenerys and for the bravery and the honor of Daenerys for freeing them, the Lannisters are fighting out of fear for Cersei, and there's a connection there that you were talking about.
Yeah, so Barristan Selmy said the same thing about Rhaegar pretty much. He was like, when your brother Rhaegar led his army into battle at the Trident, men died for him because they believed in him, because they loved him, which is a very nice little parallel. Even though it is like, don't judge the daughter by the acts of the father, this is a nice thing that she's inherited from her, brother.
But all the love in the world that the Unsullied have might not be enough to get them out of this bind, because when Grey Worm looks across the parapet, ships are sunk, the Greyjoys are here, surrounded, and we learn that the Lannisters that they've moved the bulk of their forces. The whole of Castle Rock was basically a honeypot, and now they are low on men, low on resources, and sieged on all sides with catapults, ships, and everything. So
Full Russell.
While they have Castle Rock, Grey Worm is in a bit of a sore spot.
Oh, but man, what a great Russell pulled by the Lannisters,
Great work. Smart. Never divide your forces.
Except this time.
Except for that time.
Except for that one time.
Okay, so the reason that the Lannister forces aren't there is because they are at High Garden, exacting their revenge on the Tyrells. Poor Olenna.
Well, she had a good run.
Yeah, but this is the end of the road for one of our favorite sassiest characters.
Man, and she
And
was
with-
sassy right till the damn end.
Olenna's in a bad situation where she's kind of... Firstly, the tension in the scene is incredible. The writing was so good, and I really enjoyed it. It's one of my favorite interactions between two characters now. She realizes her time has come, and she's like, oh, how am I going to go out? Are you going to...
Kicking and fighting with words.
Yeah, but Jamie shows some heart. I've got his poison here. Just going to chuck it in this little... Before that, he mentions the sword that Jamie's holding.
Widow's Wail.
Which is his son's sword, young Joffrey's sword. And then just mentions it so he could be like, he was a bit of a innit? Which was great work. Sassy to the end, which I love.
Right.
Your son, C unit.
So then poisons the wine. She drinks the wine. Chugs it, like proper goes in.
Bae, if going on a night out with Olenna Tyrell, she would be bang on
She's
it.
lit.
Yeah. So then she was like, oh, is there going to be any pain? And he's like, nah, it's relatively, you'll be cool. It's just nice, quiet sleep. And she's like, oh, man, I'd hate it if it was like the way Joffrey went out, all that foam and writhing. That would suck. And then she casually goes in. I didn't expect it would go down like that. I didn't know what the poison would be like. And Jamie's like, What? She basically reveals that it was her who poisoned Joffrey, which means Jamie now realizes everything that happened and the fact that Tyrion, the whole trial, all done on a whim because of Cersei. And, that's probably causing him to question her sanity again, like her judgment again, because he had a good relationship with Tyrion, obviously.
Yeah.
And she ruined that and cast him out, and now he's on the other side. That's something to really think about for him.
But I mean, shout out also to Olenna Tyrell. So not only sass of the week, but a glorious lady who deserves an incredible death. And
Forever in our
miss you.
thoughts.
Rest in peace. She can finally take that headscarf off, which looks way too tight.
looks real hot as well.
Yeah.
Damn right, looks hot.
All right, now we're going to look ahead to episode 4, The Spoils of War. We're going to dissect that little preview trailer that we saw at the end of episode 3. If you want to go in fresh, look away now. But if you want to theorize with us, then stay tuned. So basically, it's Cersei telling the Iron Bank that she has it under control. Don't worry, she's stolen all of this money from Highgarden. And, they just have the little tricky thing of getting it back to King's Landing. Gonna go out on a limb here? That money's not gonna make it.
Intercept.
Yeah. So, I mean, we get like a little shot of the dragon. I'm not entirely sure which dragon it is, but I think that dragon is going to swoop down on that little patrol, maybe take a few people out while he's at it. But I think maybe that dragon is going to get...
Melt some gold.
No, I think he's going to get speared.
Oh, really?
I think
Yeah, this might be
going to get
this might be
its
an
first proper
injury.
use.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be another... It's going to be a small victory for Daenerys, but it might also be a real thorn in the side. So Daenerys is saying, like, all my allies are gone. I'm losing. This could be the small victory that she needs, but she's going to work with Jon. We see them go into this cave thing. So this could be the Dragonglass deposit. Are we interested to know if there's going to be some kind of White Walker proof there as well? Like that maybe Jon can use to be like, I'm not crazy. The dead are coming from the north, but at least we get to go and see that the deposit of the Dragonglass is there and that Jon can start making his weapons. But I think the big meat of next week's episode is going to be about Littlefinger, and I think it's going to be his end next week, honestly.
Goodbye.
So you get to see this knife. It's the Valyrian steel knife that was used to try and kill Bran. We did a little kind of zoom and enhance here. You can tell that these rings belong to Littlefinger, so he definitely does have it at the moment. But whether it's him or whether it's Arya, because we see Arya returning to Winterfell, so either maybe she kills him and takes his face and has the knife or something.
I reckon he'll survive.
No, I don't think he is, because there's also this weird shot of Brienne chopping the head off someone. Sansa is looking really kind of pained, because I guess she knows that they need the Knights of the Vale, and Littlefinger is the key to that. So maybe Littlefinger dies and Arya assumes his face.
Oh, wow. That would be incredible.
That would be kind of incredible,
Just to get
right?
the units.
She's going to have to practice her leaning and short sentences.
But I would also have something to say against Littlefinger as well. So like the odds are really stacked against him at this point.
Yeah.
It's basically Bran is going to get his thoughts enough in order to say, oh, by the way, Littlefinger, that guy over there, totally betrayed your dad. And I think Sansa's going to be put in the difficult position where she decides that she has to kill him, but Arya's return maybe there'll be a whole faceless man thing about that. But there was also another cool thing that on GameSpot.com, Icefreeze said, based on what Arya said, that's not you, as her direwolf chose not to follow her back to Winterfell and continue with its new life. Arya will realize that she too is no longer the same young girl that wants to go back to Winterfell for her family, but turns around and heads towards King's Landing.
Again.
Seems like a wasted trip.
It's a big trick to turn back at the last minute, but...
Yeah, she's gone towards there, then she's turned back, and then she's going to turn back again.
Yeah.
Get it in order, girl.
I don't know, but I think Littlefinger...
It's well overdue. Creepy bugger.
We also see that Theon is on a beach somewhere. I'm going to assume he's made it back to Dragonstone, which would be interesting because then he'll get reunited with Jon Snow, and the last time... And Jon knows everything that Theon did to his brothers and family and all the betrayals. That could also be quite interesting.
People are going to die next episode.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think we're
good.
going to lose some big players next episode.
Can't wait.
Thank you very much for watching this week's episode. Make sure to come find us on Twitter. I'm at Lucy James Games.
I'm at Tamoor H.
And I'm at a regular Dave.
If you want to chat more Thrones with us, put it in the comments box below. We love reading them and incorporating it into the show. If there's anything we missed, any fan theories that you are really convinced about, please let us know, because seriously, we spend a lot of our time reading about Game of Thrones. But we'll see you next week, so make sure you come back.
Bye.
Yeah.
Goodbye.